Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of Jake Talks Star Wars, and today I want to talk about some rumors that I've been hearing about Star Wars Starfighter. For those of you who don't know, Star Wars Starfighter is the next big Star Wars movie coming out. Next summer, we're getting Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, May of 2026. I think we should all curb our expectations for Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't think that it's going to be a huge movie. I don't think it's going to be an earth-shatteringly good movie, a huge movie. I think it's going to be a fun movie, right? And there's a difference between something that is earth-shatteringly good and something that is fun. We're going to go to the movies, get some popcorn, and kind of unplug for a couple of hours. I think that's what Mandalorian and Grogu is. I think that's what we should manage our expectations to. If it's better than that, fantastic. But I think that's what we need to expect from Mandalorian and Grogu. However, Star Wars Starfighter comes out the year after, starring Ryan Gosling, hitting in 2027. It's going to be the 50th anniversary year of Star Wars, so that is a huge deal. Huge deal, 50 years since A New Hope has been released, so that's going to be a really big deal. And the rumor that I'm seeing is that Amy Adams, who has been confirmed as being cast in this film, is that Amy Adams is going to be playing Mara Jade Skywalker, or Mara Jade. Maybe not Mara Jade Skywalker, but Mara Jade. And the rumor, the rumor is based solely on Amy Adams' appearance and the color, or the color of her hair and her appearance and her age. Those are the two things, because she's about 51 years old. And Mara Jade, post Rise of Skywalker. So, yeah, because if Rise of Skywalker is like 30 years after Endor, Mara Jade would be about mid-50s, right? She would be the same age as Luke, basically. Luke was supposed to be. Mark Hamill was much older than Luke was supposed to be in those movies. But I digress. So it's based solely on her age and the fact that she has red hair, just like Mara Jade. Ignoring the fact that it's a galaxy of trillions, and there are a lot of 50-some-odd-year-old women with red hair in a galaxy of trillions. It must be Mara Jade. For those of you who don't know, Mara Jade was an expanded universe character created way back in the 90s. I can't even remember which book she was created for. But she was created way back in the 90s, and her whole shtick was she was an emperor's hand, which is kind of like a proto-inquisitor, right? Before we really had these ideas of inquisitors, she was an emperor's hand. She was a dark side user. She was trained to use the dark side. She had a lightsaber, but she was basically an assassin for Emperor Palpatine. She wasn't really trained up like a Sith. She was trained up to use the Force, to use the dark side, and to be an assassin for Palpatine. And if I'm remembering right, the whole story goes that once Palpatine was killed, or right before Palpatine was killed at Endor, he used the Force to send Mara Jade a message to avenge him by killing Luke Skywalker. And so after Endor, Mara Jade is going on this tear to try and find and kill Luke Skywalker, who murdered her master, who murdered Palpatine in her eyes. We get story, and eventually Luke turns Mara Jade from the dark side to the light side of the Force, and they actually end up having a romance and being romantic and having children of their own someday and all these sorts of things. So that's Mara Jade in the expanded universe, the old expanded universe in a nutshell. I am not a Mara Jade expert. There's other channels out there that can explain her a heck of a lot more thoroughly than I do. If you search it up, you'll find it. I'm sure they're great. But that's Mara Jade in a nutshell. So, Amy Adams could be cast as Mara Jade. And what is my opinion on that? Honestly, straight up, I hope not. I really do. I hope not, because that is a disaster waiting to happen, because people will not be happy. Fans will not be happy. Remember, like, the Star Wars fandom is just so humongous. We've got people my age, mid-30s and older, who know who Mara Jade is, who are aware of Mara Jade and her characterization and her as a character and want to see her and want to see stories with her or would like to see stories with her. And you got people younger than me. You got people like my kids or people who are teenagers or even young 20s who have no clue who the heck Mara Jade is because they grew up on a steady diet of Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, sequel movies, Disney shows. They don't know who Mara Jade is. They didn't have to, right? Because they didn't have to read all those books that we did back in the 90s when there was a drought of Star Wars content. So the problem, I think, is twofold. You're going to have an audience that you have to explain who the heck Mara Jade is to them. They're not really going to understand. It's not going to hit for them the way that it would hit for others. And then for the people who do know Mara Jade, I don't think there's any way that you can introduce Mara Jade into a story where she's not the central character, where she's not interacting with Luke Skywalker, where she's not going through that arc of turning from the dark side and becoming a light side user. I don't think there's any way to introduce her where she's not doing that the average fans of hers are going to be happy with. Because if she's in this movie, she's not going to be a central character of this movie. I can almost guarantee it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I can almost guarantee she won't be a central character in this movie if she's in this movie. And I think people will be disappointed in that. And we've seen this happen several times over the past decade and a half or so, where Disney has attempted to roll in expanded universe stuff into their stories. They found a lot of success with some of that in like Star Wars Rebels, with rolling Thrawn into the canon. I think they had a lot of success with that in Rebels. They had less success with that in the trilogy, the sequel trilogy. They had a little bit of success in Han Solo, right? There's some Han Solo things that are like expanded universe things or Adventures of Han Solo things, which is like way old expanded universe. So there are some elements that were rolled into like the Solo movie, some elements rolled into like Rogue One and Andor from the expanded universe, but none of them were integral to the storyline. None of them were main linchpins of the storyline. They were just kind of like neat little Easter eggs, other than Thrawn, right? Thrawn is like a linchpin of the storyline, but he was rolled in really well. And I think part of the reason why that was so successful is because they rolled him into a different time period. So there wasn't the expectation that he was going to do the same things that he did in like Heir to the Empire, in this pre-Yavin storyline that he was in Rebels. We'll see more about Ahsoka season 2 next year, but that's for the other video I just did. So yeah, I really hope it's not Mara Jade because I don't think people will be happy with it. I don't think it will be successful. I don't think people will be happy with it. And yeah, and it's just such a pockmarked history of bringing this EU stuff into canon that hasn't really been that successful. I mean, you think of times where they did it and really kind of swung for the fences and it wasn't successful. It didn't work. Look at Rise of Skywalker. They brought Palpatine back. I can think of half a dozen old expanded universe stories that were either canon to the expanded universe or non-canon to the expanded universe, where Palpatine returned, or stories that involved like Palpatine or Palpatine's spirit or his clone or his illegitimate son or his grandson or something like that. All these different stories for young adults and for adults, and like that were canon and non-canon within the extended universe, that just didn't really. They existed back then, and they introduced the idea in Rise of Skywalker, and people didn't like it. And people didn't care for it. People didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people didn't care for it. I thought it made sense, especially after reading the old expanded universe. Like, yeah, Palpatine, this guy is a bad penny. He just keeps popping up over and over and over again. So you got to deal with it. But yeah, so they didn't really have a lot of success with that. And unless they're really going to swing for the fences and make this an integral character and interact, and like make the character appear in such a way that's going to make people kind of pleased with that, I really don't think it's worth trying. Now, holy other thing, do I want do I want this character to be a Jedi? Do I want this character to be Force sensitive? Maybe. I think it would be just as fun if she was just another Force sensitive person. Maybe an alumni of Luke's Jedi school who maybe never finished her training and left, or maybe finished her training but then decided to stop doing Jedi things because she had a family instead. Who knows, right? I think that's getting us into a lot of potential ground for what a new Jedi Order could look like. And that's a story that I want to see told. Because we haven't had enough of that, right? We've got Luke promising to pass on what he has learned in the original trilogy, and we get Luke's Jedi Order kind of existing in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, but then they're kind of just disappearing. They're gone. So I want to know what happens to them. I want to know if they really were all wiped out, or if we're just kind of saying they were, in the same way that Yoda said, oh, the last of the Jedi. Luke wasn't the last of the Jedi. There was like 60 other guys running around the galaxy who were Jedi. So I really want to see what happens with that. And who knows? I mean, there may be competing schools of Jedi, right? There may be several different sects of Jedi at this point who draw their heritage to a different survivor of Order 66, because we know that maybe there was about 100 survivors of Order 66, and at least some of them made it through the Dark Times, made it through to the Galactic Civil War era, and at least some of them would have trained their own apprentices. So this is 60 years after Order 66. So we have the potential for 2 or 3 generations of Jedi removed from Order 66, who are not temple-trained Jedi, who are not trained by Obi-Wan or Yoda or even Luke. Think about survivors like Kanan. Think about survivors like Baylan Skoll. Think about other survivors who potentially passed on what they learned to someone else. And so you may have these small sects of like underground Jedi kind of passing on what they've learned in small ways. I mean, we know from the Kenobi series that Quinlan Vos is running around out there somewhere. We know from the Tales of the Underworld that Asajj Ventress is running around. I'm not saying she would be a Jedi, but she's a Force user. She's a Force user that's not exactly using the dark side all the time anymore. So we could have several competing schools of Force users who are Jedi or Jedi adjacent or light side adjacent, who this person could belong to. And I think this could be a way to tie this movie to the next movie that's coming supposedly after Starfighter, which is going to be supposedly a movie for Rey, for Daisy Ridley, where Rey is going to be training a new generation of Jedi. And I think her job will be to tie to train Jedi herself, but then maybe also to tie these disparate Force traditions back together again into a single cohesive group, whether it's Jedi, whether it's something else, who knows. But that's a story I want to see. So do I want Amy Adams to be Mara Jade? No, probably not. Do I want her to maybe be a Force user of some other sect that's outside of Luke's school? Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be a really great place to start exploring the Force again, start exploring the Jedi again. But ultimately, we don't know. We got a year and a half of this, of looking at crumbs and looking at little tiny pieces and bits and bobs here and there. We got a year and a half of this coming up, so we'll see what happens. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for the movie to come out. I'm excited to continue talking about these kind of things as they come. So let me know what you think. Pop in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think of Amy Adams being cast in the movie? What do you think about the rumors that she's Mara Jade? Do you want her as Mara Jade? Do you not want her as Mara Jade? Why or why not? And what do you want to see done with the Jedi moving forward from this? Do you want Rey, to be the only school of the Jedi, or do you want to look at other Force survivors of Order 66 and kind of tie these disparate Force traditions that could exist, tie them together, right? So what do you want from that? So let me know. Let me know in the comments here on YouTube. Hit me up on Threads or on Instagram. Yeah, guys, thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening. I hope you all have a great day. Remember to take care of each other out there. And remember, may the Force be with you.